Hey guys, Scott here, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the community of For Honor. Now, this was originally going to be part of my video critiquing the game overall, but that video went on a little too long, and the recent Heroes series tournament made a lot of these issues become even more apparent. Now, the general player base of the game can be described as non-competitive, which in itself is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with a player casually, getting a group of buddies together and just playing some Dominion while just hanging out. That's fine. However, it's apparent the developers of For Honor want the game to be competitive, as seen by tournament modes and a rather kind of forced entry into esports. The problem is the game is not at all ready for a competitive scene, so you get this awful splintering of the community between casual players, competitive players, and the developers who frankly seem to not know who they want to really cater the game to. Now, I've said I've always wanted the developers to host a tournament, and this remains true, but I always wanted it to be under a balanced version of the game, which they're still nowhere near. So, the core gameplay is flawed, and a tournament was held. The result, exploits and tech won the day. In For Honor, the best way to win a tournament is by breaking every mechanic of the game you possibly can within legal bounds, because the game itself is broken, so avoiding the actual game is the best strategy. This is why things like the Raider Charge Cheese, Shigoki Charge, Warlord Charge, and unlocked attacks are also prevalent in tournaments. They circumvent the actual lackluster mechanics of the game. If, say, a Lernican, I call him a Lernican, people say Lernakin, I've always called him a Lernican. If a Lernican fought within the intended confines of the game's mechanics, he would get utterly obliterated because he was using Nobushi, who has no real way to open up anyone safely. And yet, because he used unlocked tech or exploits or whatever you want to call it, he was demonized. Why, though? The first point, people that are outraged usually bring up is, well, he cheated. But by the very definition of the word, he did not cheat. Cheating is acting in an unfair way to gain an advantage over an opponent. Now, unfair would imply others could not use exploits as well, but all of this was allowed under ESL's rules, so it is incorrect to say he or anyone else in the tournament cheated. Whether or not these exploits should be allowed in a tournament is completely irrelevant. The tourney I am talking about allowed them. Now, the first point is usually followed by, he didn't deserve to be in the tournament, which, again, is ridiculous. A lot of these people are even saying they could easily beat these tournament players despite them being high placers in tournaments since the game came out, far before unlocked exploits were even known. Why are they consistently placing high if you can beat them so easily? Everyone in this tournament very much deserved to be there, and I have fought just about all of them, so I can even personally attest to how good they are. The real problem with the For Honor community is a startlingly large amount of them blame players for doing everything they can do to win, instead of blaming the developers for both forcing these players to find shady methods of combat to remain competitive, and for allowing these shady methods in their tournaments. Now, a lot of this resonates strongly with me because it very much reminds me of the Dark Souls PvP days. For those who weren't there when that was the majority of my content, I was infamous for being good with the Karthus Curve Sword, which was a weapon that was best in its class with no real drawbacks. It was as fast as similar weapons, longer than similar weapons, had more damage than similar weapons, had a bleed effect, had no real other special requirements. It was just simply better than everything else in its class for no reason. So when it came to tournaments, of course I used the thing, as did half of the other tournament participants. And yet, there were similar comments there, such as, no skill, Karthus user, I would wreck that guy. It sounds exactly like the whole no skill Raider Charge user, I'd wreck that guy, like a comment that's been echoed extensively since the Hero series. The thing is, it's not my fault the Karthus Curve Sword was so good. It's not Alernican's fault that Nobushi is pretty bad without exploits. It's not Scorebrand or Clutchmeister or anyone who Raider Charge's fault that particular move is by far the best thing Raider can do. It's all on the developers of the game in all of these scenarios. Now, when you're in a big tournament, you play to win within the rules of the tournament. Had these players not cheesed or exploited, they would have done significantly worse. Even people that are being given credit for playing honestly, like Oscar and his Orochi or Bandana and his Centurion, they still use some form of exploit, be it flickered zone attacks or unlocked zones on Centurion. I mean, not a single person in the tournament played without abusing some mechanic of the game, because they have no other choice. For comparison, Ice Guys, a notably good Warden player, doesn't exploit or cheese whatsoever, and of course he didn't even get through qualifying. The fact of the matter is, the way the game is designed makes exploiting its mechanics a requirement to remain competitive as long as exploits are allowed. I saw several comments like, if I was in the tournament, I would have actually played the game how it's meant to be played, which is noble and all, but you would get fucking wrecked. And if you thought otherwise, you'd be kidding yourself. I mean, you're not going to take Nobushi undefeated against the best players in the world by just playing normal For Honor. It's just not going to happen. Again, if the rules of the tournament included no unlocking and a player did so without people noticing or he kind of like snuck that in, that would absolutely be cause for outrage. But the fact of the matter is, it was allowed. It was completely allowed, so none of the players were at fault. Now, these players are so good that playing how the game was originally designed just does not cut it at a competitive level. And you know what? The players using unlocks and charges, they hate doing it too. No one likes Raider charge mirror matches, not even the Raiders doing it to each other. However, they would be stupid to do anything else because after months of playing the game all day, that's what they found to be the most optimal style of play, as dumb as it is. Hell, Alernican, who even went undefeated the entire tournament, posted an essay himself about how broken Nobushi could be over a month ago in attempts to get it noticed and fixed. Of course, it just went ignored, so obviously he thought, fuck it, I guess I'm just gonna use it then. I mean, how can you blame the dude? Like, they all know about this stuff. It's still in the game. They don't fix it, and they're like, okay, I guess I'll use it then. Bottom line is, blame the game for forcing players to break the game in order to remain competitive. Unless there is a collective armistice on never exploiting again, and one player will always want to do it, which means other players will have to do it as well, or they will lose every competitive edge. Now, the ideal fix to this situation is actually designing the characters well so they don't have to rely on bugs to remain competitive, but that is a massive undertaking. And although it actually seems like they're finally taking a few steps in the right direction with Season 3, which is very refreshing, the game itself right now and during that tournament was, it's still light years away from being a competitive game. So until then, blame the game, not the actual players that are just doing what they can to win. So that's my rant, and this last part wasn't part of my script or anything that I wrote, but man, I just gotta say, fuck so many people making articles about the tournament, people making YouTube videos about it and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure you guys know, like I've been fed up with For Honor for months now. I've been waiting for them to, change the original characters of the game because like all the new characters have a lot of mechanics about them that are engaging and fun, and like if every character was like Gladiator and they were all designed like that, this game would be so good. It would be so much better. But as it stands, it seems like they had the original cast of the game before they realized how good people would be at their game, and then once they were like, oh shit, people can't do these chains of attacks, they're just gonna parry and block everything, they can't do that. So once they realized no one could do their actual moveset, they're like, okay, let's add Centurion, let's add, Highlander, let's add Gladiator, let's add, all these classes that have openers and combos and, mix-ups and all this cool stuff. So it seems like they understand what they need to do now, and they're kind of taking the game in the right direction, which is really cool. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. I was just explaining why I hadn't played in a while. Because they hadn't really touched the older characters, which I'm really hoping they do at some point. But I haven't played in a while. But even me, I'm so cynical about this game. And dude, oh my god, fuck people writing articles or making videos about this without knowing anything about the actual event or anything that happened in it. They heard, oh, there was some sort of exploit, let me just write an article about it without knowing jack shit about the game. And that pisses me off. More than like, I don't really care about For Honor right now that much, but like, just bad journalism just pisses me off. Like, so many things in the articles that I read were just straight up lies, like saying unlocks can make your attacks unblockable. Like, just so many things were just so incorrect. And they basically just circle jerked the wrong point, blaming the players. And that is just the worst attitude to have. It's not their fault. And these articles and videos just perpetuate that hate, which is it's just fucking abysmal. It's pathetic. They should be ashamed of themselves, but got them some hot views, so that's nice. Whew. Anyway, that's my rant. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm sure I'll be back to For Honor in Season 46 when they touch the old cast, but until then, I do like, I still like talking about the game, because it holds a special place in my heart, as much as I don't want to play it right now. It's a special game to me, so... Thanks for listening, guys. Take it easy. Have a good one.